proudly brought to you by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
Theme for today is funding opportunities. We do know that the Nigerian government is intent on elevating the status of this economy to a G20 economy within the next decade, and part of that means really diversifying the economy and loosening the purse strings to ensure that credit is flowing to critical areas of the economy and also into those areas that are what we call off the beaten track. Nigeria believes that its time has come, and what we're going to be debating this morning is whether or not the mechanisms do exist for credit financing and innovative funding solutions to ensure that all sectors of the economy are touched. Job creation is also a critical facet of this component. So we're going to be hearing from regulators and industry players as to what needs to be done. Introducing the panel to you, I'll begin on my right-hand side. We have Mohammed K. Ahmed. He is the Director General of the Nigerian Pensions Commission. Thanks so much for your time. Malcolm Gilroy is the Head of Asset Management at Afrinvest. Malcolm, thanks so much for being here with us. Oscar Onyema is the CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. He needs no introduction. He's the global governor, lauded internationally, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, the governor of Nigeria's central bank. To my left is Arun Maute. She is the Director General of the Nigerian Securities and Exchange Commission. Seated next to her is Anata Zacchaeus. He is with the Nigerian Depositor Insurance Corporation, the Director General there, and Fola Daniel, who is the DG of NICOM, which is effectively the insurance regulator. I'll start with you, Fola Daniel, because you accused me once of not giving you sufficient airtime. So here it is, very briefly. When we talk about funding opportunities in Nigeria, where does the insurance industry come to play?
Thank you very much. I was going to accuse you of insurance apathy because I also noted that the governor spoke for some 10 minutes. He didn't mention anything about insurance, but I'm aware that the central bank governor is comprehensively insured. On Wednesday, the Honorable Minister of National Planning made an introductory presentation that eloquently spoke about Nigeria as an investment destination. Very robust presentation. That presentation was followed up with a documentary that showcased different opportunities in different sectors of the economy, including the financial services. There was, however, a gap in that presentation. In all the presentations, because I waited all through, nothing was mentioned about insurance. And I was wondering, I mean, insurance is one of the greatest mobilizer of funds. And maybe I need to quickly remind all of us that up to 2004, pension was an integral part of insurance. And taken together, pension and insurance, in order climb, they remained the biggest source of funding. Pension to us in the insurance sector was like oil and gas to the Nigerian economy. Pension was an wholesale business, and the insurance industry went to sleep and forgot to develop other areas of opportunities. The pension and life business is taken together. If we take it as 100% as providing fund, the pension element represented over 80%. The remaining 15% also constitute long-term funds, which is life businesses, which we neglected. So the exercise of pension from insurance was a challenge to us, but it has created huge opportunities because we now discover that we really need to go back to the drawing board and develop products that... Could I interrupt
you there, Mr. Daniel? Okay. Going forward, we're here to talk about what lies ahead, the road ahead. With all those problems withstanding, you now have a robust opportunity to come up with innovative products. What are they?
Yes, I was going to say that having taken pension away from insurance, we are now focusing on developing other long-term products. The ordinary life business is an important element of long-term business. And if you look at climes like South Africa, the ordinary life business constitutes a huge chunk of investable fund. So we are going full wheel developing the ordinary life business. And to make it environmental friendly, we are looking at gaps where we have opportunities and people are not buying. One of the areas we are looking at is developing Islamic insurance. We have a huge Muslim population in this country, and they are uninsured. The insurance principles, they are not against it, but the way we manage insurance funds, they are not happy with it. So we are actually developing Islamic insurance, and we believe that that will enable us grossing quite a lot of income.
All right, we'll continue on this tack in just a second. Anati Zacchaeus, your views on where the funding opportunities lie in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. Well, basically, the Nigerian deposit insurance scheme is involved with the guarantee of depositors of the banking system. And in performing that role, which is our basic function, we also have, jointly with the central bank, the issue of the role of supervision. Now, our interest, which is one of the primary functions, is to ensure that deposit insurance scheme provides added confidence to depositors, so that it gives additional confidence in the banking system. Now, the governor talked about funding with Sukuk, infrastructural project as a way forward. There is currently a proposal, for instance, in terms of non-interest banking, because of the huge potential. And we are also looking ahead, apart from the jointly supervising these banks with the central bank, we are equally looking ahead in playing our role in that aspect, because we know that there are people with a lot of funds that are not banking with the conventional banks. Right. So we have gone ahead to have a framework in anticipation of the non-interest bank when they come on stream, because we believe that they have a huge potential. And of course, this Sukuk is part of the products that those non-interest banks will come in. So in this aspect, we feel also that it has a very large potential to contribute, and we are also looking forward to play our role. I'm sure
you're going to tell us more as we continue. Arun Maute, obviously people are looking to the Nigerian capital markets to direct portfolio inflows, lots of regulation that you've undertaken, but where are the opportunities? I mean, a lot of people look to you for improving on governance, but we're also looking to you for innovation.
Absolutely. I will say that there are several issues that are very critical. First, as the Commissioner of Insurance mentioned, we've got 167 million people in Nigeria. And so we need to make sure that we have vehicles to enable them participate in the great opportunities that Nigeria has to offer. And so financial inclusion issues are extremely critical. So what they're doing in insurance, what we're doing in encouraging collective investment schemes are extremely important. Secondly, you need to have catalysts. And I believe the central bank governor in his opening remarks talked about some ideas about how we can catalyze investments, particularly local investments in Nigeria. We have a number of things in place. We've all applauded the level of pension resources that we have today. In addition, we have a sovereign wealth fund that has recently been established. It's $1 billion, but what it will do is catalyze investments from other sovereign wealth funds. I know that during the establishment of the sovereign wealth fund, a number of sovereign wealth funds outside of Nigeria indicated that they will invest alongside Nigeria's sovereign wealth fund. Third is some of the structures that we've heard about around the power sector. Multilateral agencies for many years, particularly in Asia and in Europe and the Americas, have used partial risk guarantees as a way to provide the comfort that investors need to invest in a sector or in a country that they may not be familiar with. Very recently, the Ministry of Finance and the Power Ministry and other operators worked together to develop a partial risk guarantee provided by IDA. It allows you to extend maturities for investing. It allows you to feel comfortable that you will get your payments back. In terms of innovation, I really do think that it's extremely critical because the opportunities abound. the vehicles abound. We need to start to think about them. But we need to be prepared, and therefore the capacity of the industry to take advantage of these opportunities is very, very critical.
All right, I'm going to stop you there, but you've raised interesting issues that give us food for thought, particularly the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which I'd like us to interrogate further. Governor, I'm going to ask you to just take off your cap as governor and just give us a macro analysis of Nigeria. We heard the other day that the greatest opportunities lie untapped in mining. We still need greater momentum in agriculture, retail and wholesale, construction, the power sector, as Arun Maote raises. What's your view of where the greatest opportunities are maximum gain?
Well, Akin was here yesterday on agriculture, and I think he did a very good job of explaining our thinking as far as unlocking the cultural value chain is concerned. You've got a sector that employs 70% of the labor force. Most population is rural. It's 42% of GDP, but it's all primary production. And it's on the ground floor. It's rain-fed. So the opportunities there for improving productivity, for moving up the value chain, and it doesn't matter what value chain you pick in Nigeria, it's amazing. We're the world's #1 producer of cassava today. But what do we do with it? We basically turn it into what's called gari and eat it. Okay, we don't produce cassava flour, we don't produce cassava chips, we don't produce ethanol, we don't produce starch. Okay, and these are all part of the value chain. We produce tomato and it perishes. We don't even process tomato locally. We import it. So the opportunities there are great. And mining has amazing opportunities. I mean, Aliko Dangote just about mining the other day. I'll give you an example. I was in his cement factory, Abuja, a few weeks ago. And right there, okay, he's going to build, by the time he's finished the expansion, the biggest cement plant in the world, okay? But right there on site, he produces 96% of his raw materials, and there is enough deposit to last 250 years. I mean, so the whole country is just sitting, literally, on money, okay? But how much are we spending on the exploration? I mean, if you got New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Canada, and China, you got all the mining countries in the world. And if you had an agreement with them, you could basically turn oil into a secondary resource, you know, given the kind of wealth there is. So I think agriculture, I think mining, these are the two things that need to be looked at. And I think then we've got to fix the structural bottlenecks on infrastructure.
Oscar Nyema, obviously your work is cut out for you because you come literally on the back end of some very, very significant reforms. And then you've also got to open up this market to a local and an international audience. And people are saying, dynamism is needed here. You can't just have the banks, some of the industrials, the oil companies, the cement manufacturers. You need a lot more offerings on the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
I would totally agree with you. We believe that there's a lot of opportunities to raise funds through the Nigerian capital markets. And so we are creating a market structure that would facilitate the raising of funds and also secondary trading in the marketplace. We have draft rules to modify listing standards, to introduce quantitative listing standards that are flexible but continue to maintain high standards. That should allow for mining companies, petroleum companies, and other kinds of companies to easily list. So we are making the Nigerian capital market a very competitive listing destination. There are also several things we're doing with regards to providing a secondary market that allows you to go in and out easily. So at the end of the day, it's really creating a market structure that works, creating a secondary market that works, and then going out there and educating investors, because it's important that people understand that even though we're encouraging the ownership of companies, you have to be aware of the risks that are involved and properly diversify your risk in order not to be blown out of the water during the cyclical downturns in the marketplace.
When you travel abroad on your roadshows, what are the three things that investors are asking you? Because I've just mentioned the issue of governance, and that's foremost to mind, but what else is it?
Obviously, they want to know their money is safe. So what kind of regulatory programs do you have in place? And I tell them we have very strong and evolving regulatory programs. They can see what the regulators have already done with regards to enforcement of our rules. We are trying to make our rules more transparent and enforce them while making sure that it's fair. So it's enforced on a fair playing field. Yeah. The next thing they want to know is how deep and liquid is your market? How easy is it for me to exit the market once I've come in? And that is why I spoke to market structure. We're introducing market makers to facilitate the exit and the entry into the secondary market. We're also introducing, working with the SEC, CBN, and other agencies, securities lending to make the market more efficient. So people that are long-term investors that want to sit on their securities can get extra revenues while lending those securities out. And then the third thing they also ask about is, why aren't your local investors investing? So we're also developing programs around making sure that we tap into the demographics that we see as a very positive sign. You have already 5 million investors in Nigeria, but that is relatively small when you compare it to the population of Nigeria.
Right. We'll continue on that tack. Malcolm Gilroy, your opportunity now, and if you could just give me a sense of how funding is coming into Nigeria. We spent all of Thursday discussing foreign direct investment, but then we were also cautioned about that and it was said that, you know, we really need to unravel local participation in the Nigerian economy. This economy can only grow through active participation of Nigerians investing in the economy. How do you see it?
I agree wholeheartedly that we have to approach the Nigerians, but we have to give them a choice. At the moment, when you talk to a Nigerian about a capital market investment, they inevitably think of stock. When you see big infrastructure projects, there is no way for an average Nigerian person to invest in those. We need to create systems whereby, as the governor was saying, there are some guarantees so that when the pension funds or sovereign wealth fund invests in an infrastructure project, you can use that same structure and put a collective investment scheme alongside of it and bring the average investor into the market. You can list these things on the stock exchange so that they're transparent. People know then exactly where their money is, and they can see it going up and down every day. Right. One of the problems that we have in this market is, I believe we have a huge lack of capital in the capital markets industry. Most of the capital has been attracted to the banks. We need to get some capital attracted into the investment banks.
All right, Mohammed K. Ahmed, your turn here. Oscar's just told us about the importance of getting local investors active, and this is where you come in. There's something like 2.4 trillion naira in pensionable assets that could really stimulate this market. How do you see your role, and what are you doing?
Well, I'm happy that the background submission by the governor clearly pointed out to the fact that the role of the pension assets. I'm also pleased that he actually spoke our mind. We're dealing with other people's money, and to that extent, we need to ensure that they're protected. The issues he raised, particularly in respect of guarantees, and also in respect of the fact that pension assets can be invested, we discussed this over a year ago. And based on the submission and interaction with the Central Bank of Nigeria, we reviewed our investment regulations. I said today, all the issues you mentioned have been incorporated in investment regulations, and fortunately, up to today, we don't have instruments to invest in. Now, that is the challenge. And we hope and pray, given the comments you made, that very soon we'll start to see investment instruments consistent with the investment regulation being issued. So that is basically one issue. The second issue that national savings goes beyond retirement benefit. So how can we as a nation collectively, bake the cake? In other words, how do you increase the pie so that at least at the end of the day, we'll have huge amount? And this is an issue. And therefore, we should go beyond looking at pension assets as a nation, and we should try to look at how do you improve our national savings. It is extremely challenging in terms of getting other investment instruments, the corporate bonds, for instance. The regulators in the financial service industries have been working closely with the view to minimizing those challenges in raising bonds. As we always say, it is easier to call a bank treasurer and get 20 billion, and before you can raise 5 billion through corporate bond, it takes a long time. How do you improve the bond market? And these are some of the issues. And given the fact that we're a bank-based financial service industry, we need to take concrete efforts to do that. And of course, in addition to the fact that our investors' perception is short-term. Our returns expectations are short-term. I mean, contributors come to us to say, hey, why are you keeping our money? I can keep it in a fixed deposit account and make X amount of money. So for that reason, I don't need to wait until after 5, 10 years, and therefore we need to move out of the capital market or something. These are the challenges, and I believe collectively, through our coordinating effort as regulators, we've been taking these issues one after the other.
All right, thanks so much for that overview. We are taking a break. When we come back, I want to find out more about the Sovereign Wealth Fund and also how infrastructure spending is going to unravel in Nigeria.